Oversight hearing held by the Committee into the Implementation of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. That act has been very successful for many tribes, yet it has not been without controversy or challenge, as our hearings have shown. Among the issues that have been both controversial and challenging are the determinations of what Indian lands are eligible for gaming. Under the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, trust lands outside of a reservation are generally not eligible for gaming if acquired after October 17, 1988, the date IGRA was enacted. However, IGRA provides exceptions to that ban if the Secretary and Governor agree after making certain findings. Also, for three specific situations: settlement of land claims, tribes that are newly acknowledged by the Department of Interior, and tribes that are registered to recognition. When IGRA was drafted, notions of fairness led to considerations for those tribes who, though through no fault of their own, lost lands or were not recognized by the federal government prior to 1988. However, in recent years, this committee has been made aware of attempts by some tribes and by some non-Indian developers to expand the use of these exceptions in ways not contemplated when IGRA was enacted. Recognition of tribes and the creation, restoration, or recovery of reservation lands are significant events to Indian and non-Indian communities. When coupled with the establishment of a gaming facility, the impacts to the affected communities are even greater, and the need for clarity in the law is especially important. It's time this committee reviewed the uses of these exceptions to determine if they are meeting their intended purpose. Senator Dorgan.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I think we all agree that Indian gaming has grown very substantially. It has become a very big success for many Indian tribes. They've generated over $18 billion of revenue from gaming, employed over 200,000 people. There are Indian reservations in this country that have substantially reduced their unemployment as a result of gaming activities. I won't go through the list, but I think there's no question but that there are substantial benefits. The opportunities for Indian tribes to locate gaming activities near large population centers is certainly something that tribes aspire to do to the extent they can. And we know that the success in many cases of Indian gaming is primarily determined by location. We know that there are some very large, extraordinarily successful operations. Foxwoods, Mohegan Sun come to mind, and then many other smaller gaming facilities. In my state, there are, I believe, 5, all located in generally rural areas, but nonetheless still providing significant jobs for members of the tribes. The exceptions in IGRA, the 3 exceptions that we'll primarily talk about today, are expressly for tribes whose lands were illegally taken, whose governments were wrongfully terminated, or who are just establishing their government-to-government relationship with our country. The exceptions are intended to correct some of the many injustices that have been bestowed upon Native people, and I believe there's a need for these exceptions. I support these exceptions and a need to correct these injustices. But I don't believe that tribes should use the IGRA exceptions to place itself in a better position than had the injustices not occurred. And by that I mean a tribe historically located in the Adirondack Mountains, for example, should not now be able to use an exception to acquire land and open a casino in downtown Manhattan. And I wonder about some of the stories you hear about some tribes willing to settle very large claims, land claims, for mere acres in a metropolitan area or a resort area. And so that's the issue I raise with respect to the use of the exceptions. Once again, IGRA provides a mechanism for those tribes seeking to obtain more economically viable lands, but this mechanism is burdensome. It requires local input, gubernatorial support. It's still the proper mechanism to be used in certain cases, and I think this particular hearing will give us the opportunity to learn about the use of the IGRA exceptions and about whether any changes need to be made. But I think this hearing is an important discussion about a significant piece of Indian gaming, because we see these pressures all around the country now to find ways to locate gaming facilities in the middle of major population centers. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I'm anxious to hear from the witnesses.